We're getting some breaking news into us right now. A federal appeals court has ruled that most of the global tariffs that President Trump has put in place are illegal. We go right now to NBC's Brian Chung, who covers business for us. Brian, what more do we know about this ruling, how it will impact the president's timeline? And then, of course, I'm guessing this is already setting up for an appeal.
Yeah, Tom, we are just reading over these documents right now, so we're kind of going through it as I'm speaking to you right now. But it seems like the high-level takeaway here is that a court, this being the the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, has decided that the government's use of these what they call emergency authorities to try to tariff essentially every country around the world on a bilateral basis are not legal, and that would imply that they are going to strike them down, which would be really impactful for the 70-plus or so countries that the United States, memorably over the past few months, has been implementing these case-by-case tariff rates, 15% in some countries, 20%, 50%, as you'll recall, with Brazil. Again, what the president has been using as the legal justification for doing these tariffs is called the Emergency Act. It's called the IEEPA. I don't need to go through the entire acronym right now, but this is what the court is saying is illegal. This would not cover, and I want to point out, this is an important distinction here, this would not cover separate types of tariffs on specific industries. We've heard the president talking about semiconductor, smartphone. There are currently in place steel and aluminum tariffs. Those are separate from this. Those are Section 232 tariffs, which would not be covered by this lawsuit. But nonetheless, this would be hugely impactful. If it is indeed the case that the United States government would lose an appeal, because certainly this will be appealed, that would imply that these tariffs would go away, which is a major pillar of the president's agenda over these first few months in office in his second term. So again, we'll have to see what happens here. What is unclear to me at this moment, as we're still kind of going through these documents, is whether or not the court is going to strike down the implementation of these tariffs in the interim if there is an appeal, or can they continue to stay in place while the government continues to go about this lawsuit? So we'll have to see, Tom. A lot of questions outstanding this evening.
Yeah, and likely, I'm guessing, to go all the way to the Supreme Court. Let's go to Yamiche Alcindor, who's over at the White House right now. Yamiche, what are you hearing from the White House in terms of reaction?
Well, it's a key question. Right now, the White House has not responded to my multiple requests for comment. This is, of course, fast developing. What we do know is that President Trump has made tariffs a key part of his policy and his strategy, economic strategy, political strategy. We also know that the president has really made this a sort of hallmark of the first few months of his administration. So it's going to be a big political blow if they are all the way up to the Supreme Court deemed illegal. But as you said, Tom, this is likely going to be appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court may decide something differently than this appeals court. It's also important to note that as I'm waiting for the White House to respond, there are some judges here that are from both sides of the political aisle, because President Trump at times has attacked judges, called them partisan. Just looking at the list, you have Bush appointees, you have Obama appointees, you have Clinton appointees. So it's really interesting when you look at sort of the makeup of who made this decision. We're still trying to figure out whether or not this kind of freezes the tariffs. From our understanding, right now the courts are saying that the tariffs can stay in place, it seems, and that this will just be adjudicated and continue to be sort of argued over in the courts here. So I'm going to really be interested to see sort of what the president says. I won't read to you part of the decision right now unless we have a little bit more time. But what I can tell you is that the president is not going to be happy about this, but is, I'm sure, going to say that he can do this and that he'll go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, listen, I've been trying to scan through it as you've been talking. It's at least 65 pages long, so it's not a quick read. But Brian, you've had a few more seconds to kind of peruse it, and I'm, based on what is the appeals court? What's the bottom line for its decision to essentially invalidate the tariffs?
Yeah, and I want to point out that I think some people might be getting a little bit of deja vu on this, because we did talk about a separate court. This was the lower court just a few months ago. I believe it was in May that litigated this as well, where that court found that this was illegal, that the use of these so-called International Emergency Economic Powers Act, it did not enable the president in the way that he did to use these so-called reciprocal tariffs. We were just showing the image of the president in the Rose Garden with that sign of all those different tariff rates for each country. That is what was being used, this IEEPA Act, to justify those particular tariff rates. Again, a court in May said that that was not legal, and it seems like this court is now upholding that. So again, this is just kind of part of the rung, as you can imagine, going all the way up to the Supreme Court. So might not be the final word here, but it is significant that now you have two courts that are saying it is illegal. I think, again, the question is is there some sort of, and I'm not a lawyer, but is there some sort of injunction, I think would be the term to describe it, against the implementation of these tariffs in the interim? And I want to point out that the plaintiffs that filed this lawsuit, they are small businesses. I believe VOS, which is the name of the business on this particular ruling here, is a small importer. So again, it's small businesses that have wagered this very significant legal challenge against the government.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.